Welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. We've got another exciting guest with us today, another person that we both know quite well.
Yeah, we have Krishan Deegalla with here. He's a tech founder, entrepreneur, investor, and everything tech, right? So is that a good way to introduce you, Krishan?
Yeah, I'm a family man.
Of course.
Into real estate.
Yeah, of course. Investor, real estate. Yeah. So, Krishan, thank you so much for joining us and Quest for Success podcast. And before we go and talk you through and do a proper introduction, we always ask a question from every guest.
Our opening tradition on this podcast is to talk about, the fundamental of what we're talking about here is success. And so we like to get each guest to define, in today's perspective, what does success mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, success means a lot to a lot of people, I guess. It depends on how you define the scope.
Absolutely.
So, in your personal life, your financial life, in the ventures you get into, your friendships. So when you put all together, I think you have to have all these components to be successful, I think, in a holistic way. So I believe for me, I think in a lot of areas where I was able to have a successful, meaningful relationships with people, with my family and my business partners in businesses, it's a lot to do with integrity, being respectful and hard work. I think those are the key areas where you can apply and
But how would you quantify success? Is there something that you're chasing that you would be like, okay, I'm successful? Or because it's good to have values like you mentioned, but there's something that would mean success to you?
I think happiness, right? I think I think the level of happiness, freedom, and flexibility is what I believe.
You have the freedom.
Happiness.
Yep.
I think having choices.
Agency.
I think do what you love doing, and financial freedom, having friends that fits those ethoses kind of helps you to have that. So I believe freedom, choices, do what you love is where I want to live. I can choose where I want to live, how I want to travel, who I want to hang out with. I think that's kind of
which podcast you wanted to come and join. That freedom, right?
That's kind of what I've.
Yeah, awesome.
That's awesome. That's a really good answer, Krishan. So Krishan, people don't know who's Krishan and what you do. Can you take us through and just give us a bit of a snapshot to what you do?
I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I did my HSA in Sri Lanka and then came to Australia for my degree. I studied at University of Sydney. It's funny that I came here to actually do electrical engineering because my father and mother wanted me to do that. But year one, I didn't like it. I hated it, and it was such a pivotal moment of my life where I just, you know what, guys, I don't want to do this. I want to do software because I seems to be doing okay with software. And then I spoke to my parents. My mother really didn't like that, but my father's like, you know what, if that's
everybody
what
parents want their son to be engineers or doctors,
my father's
right?
like, you know what, if that's what you want to do, just do it. It's fine. It's funny, being traditionally from tradition of Sri Lanka. I guess this applies for probably 60% of the generation I come from anyway, where your parents kind of guide you till you're 20.
Yep.
I mean, I had very little choice where I'm going to, which university I'm going to. They were like, this is where you're going, this is the university you've been enrolled to, this is the course you are doing pretty much, right?
Yep.
So, and once you come here, you kind of start figuring out what you are, who you are, what you want to do in life, and really be a bit more independent. That's the first year was that, first 6 months was that, getting the fundamentals right. And that's when you realize, oh, this is not what you want to do. Probably the first choice I probably made in my life. You know what? I'm not going to do this. And then switched to software. finished my degree and worked for a couple of companies. And then I realized, maybe there's opportunity for me to do something, by myself. Then I quit my job. Again, a pivotal moment of my life. We had decent jobs back in the day. Software was booming. Industry was kind of picking up. Amazon, all these guys are coming up with cloud infrastructure. So it was quite a hot market. So IT guys were getting hired left, right, and center. So we had very decent jobs. And then I decided to quit. And again, I always call my father on these things. And I was like telling my father, look, this is not what I want to do. I'm just going to quit. And my father was like, my uncle was like, you shouldn't do that. You should have a good job. You should just try to, work on it for the next few years. But I was like, no, I don't like it. And then, my father's like, you know what, son, you didn't take anything to this country. You went there. You went to explore. You want to experience. If things doesn't work out, I was a student. I had a student visa back in the day, so you could always come back. If things go successful, you can, find your way out.
Yep.
So I made the decision to quit and worked with a couple of partners to build solutions. It was quite a difficult start. But back in the day, you could stay in a small room or live in the living room. It wasn't a big deal. So our costs are quite low. So we figured out how to kind of live sustainably. Live, within our means rather.
Yeah.
From that, entrepreneurship is a quite interesting.
You had that
topic.
naturally, right? Like, maybe you've seen your father.
Yes. So my father is quite a successful entrepreneur himself. I mean, came from very modest background and came and became
very successful,
which I consider quite successful in terms of how he held himself in and how we did business, how we conduct business, the kind of integrity he processed. So I think within those parameters, I would call him quite a successful businessman. We were also kind of driven to do our own thing, but entrepreneurship. It's about recognizing a problem and build a commercial model and can get mass adoption. Now, I was lucky enough. Two different ways I see entrepreneurs, come up with solutions. One, problems comes to you, and client pays for it. You solve it. The second way of doing it is you finding a problem and you solving it. I was lucky enough I had the option one, I kind of noticed there was a problem, but they've kind of came to me.
Yeah.
These larger clients came to me and said, Krishan, maybe you can help us here. But taking that opportunity and scaling it up was quite important. I think I executed that quite well, built a good team around me and then, built enough scale to be, considerable business. So, onboarded quite large companies, Fortune 500 companies. So, quite glad that I did that. But again,
So Krishan, you talking about entrepreneurship. You didn't actually work for many places, right? So very early days, as you said, you realize, well, I need to do my own thing, right? What made you think? Is that the influence that came from your family or something that you thought, this is not me?
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I was doing. It wasn't anything to do with, I want to be a businessman or tech contract, anything, nothing to do with that. I just didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like the managers I was reporting to. I didn't think they were competent enough.
You didn't believe in them,
I
right?
just didn't click. I just thought, not for me. So it just, I was rather, doing something else. So that's a switch. Now, once you get out of the job, you got to figure out a way to live, right? So then the problems becomes a bit easier.
But when you started early days, right? I want to take your memory to those early days. I mean, it can't be like straightforward. Like it was a struggle, right? Like or was it an easy transition from working for someone to become doing your own thing?
Well, it becomes a struggle when the reality and the expectation has a huge gap, right? When you're a 24-year-old boy,
Tell Dylan about that. Yeah.
when you're a 24-year-old boy, expectations are quite low.
Yeah.
You've just finished degree, you pay $250 a week in rent. Probably cost you, back in the day anyway, $80 a week to have food. That's it. We didn't have car leases, nothing, right? So I always knew I could probably do something and find that money.
Yeah.
So you have 10 grand in your account, you've set for a year pretty much. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I think helped me, because I really didn't have major overheads. I didn't have a really huge kind of lifestyle choices where, I need a huge income to survive. I really needed to work 2-3 days as a contractor, and the rest of the days I could just chill at home.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me the freedom. I think the managing your cash flows and finances early on is what kind of helped me, where I realized, it cost me $400 a week to survive. Okay, I can do 3 days of work, which I did. I just working contractor, doing some software development work. And the rest of the works, I'm just doing research and figuring out what I should be doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I helped.
Yeah. So that figuring out time, what was like that, because yes, so you kind of find a way to get some income while you're building your enterprise or your idea, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think, we didn't have any exposure to capital raising or any sort of
Absolutely, yeah.
how to, bring people in as equity partners to help you with it. So it's all about, bootstrapping, find some money, get a couple of guys in, pay them, and start building it.
But you had an idea that time that I want to do, or
Yeah, I think my idea was services.
Okay.
I didn't really understand the concept of products. Again, when you start these things, you have no idea what you're doing, right? And that's okay. That's what
You're
I realized,
figuring it
right?
out.
I think
Yeah.
the guys that's coming out of now, there's a lot more content, and there's a lot more advice you could get. But for me, I don't think I was really knew what I was doing. I knew that I got to go and survive, so I'll start a services business, and I just started selling IT businesses, standard web development, this and that.
Okay.
It was a struggle, you make 50 calls. I can remember, making phone calls, seeing people. You close 1 or 2, and then somehow I got into this telco space. They had a problem, but one thing I've realized is once they present the problem, I realized, okay, if I work hard on this, I could really give a good solution for it.
Yeah.
And that's when the pivot happened. So that kind of moved into the telco space. We started building stuff back in the day on Amazon, cloud billing, allowing telcos to bring the cost, keep the cost down by, switching on servers on off. I mean, now it's, when you think about it now, it's quite rudimental. But back in the day, these were
Yep.
quite interesting solutions. And that's kind of, we could call it right place at the right time, persevering. It's all about grind, right? Things will work out. You just have to stay in the course, believe in your skill set, learn, and suddenly the pivot happened. Then the snowballs effect will start coming in. So that's kind of what I thought.
You talked about nowadays there's lots of content and stuff out there to, support people who are trying to get into the entrepreneurship space. But do you think it's almost the experience is part of the journey? Because you could get spoon-fed. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. You can get as much advice as is out there, but I think one of the most critical parts is just learning it yourself.
Yeah.
People can tell you so much, but it doesn't sink in until you're actually in the right scenario where you can actually learn from it.
Yeah, that's true. But to be a successful entrepreneur, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
and depend on your life cycle where you start, where you can afford to make more mistakes, and that spectrum moves as you get older, right? So when you are 20, 24, you can afford to make a lot of mistakes, and people will forgive that, right? It's fine. But when you become 30, 40, then you have family, you have kids, the kind of chances, risks you can take. So depending on the age group you are in, I guess you have to see whether you have to seek out help or you're going to do it yourself. But I feel like now, hindsight, looking back, to be a successful entrepreneur, or you need to understand how fundamentals work. How to manage your cash flows. Like, it's not necessarily at scale. Like, you get $100, how do you manage this?
Yeah.
If that's all you get, how do you survive with that? How do you grind? What is problem solving? How do we keep solving problems? Entrepreneurship all about solving problems, right? Whatever it is, it's solving problems and keep doing that at scale. So you can get help in these two areas, especially on the management. I just felt I wish I had better training on understanding money, how money works, what is interest rate means, what is inflation means, what that means to economy, what that means to the markets, what that means to budgets on technology companies, what to fund, what not to fund, but that exposure I didn't have. It's over time, seeking out, and I've learned it myself. There's so much you can learn from experience, and these experiences can be quite expensive as well. So I think it's good to go out and get some knowledge on fundamentals, but the rest you have to learn yourself.
Yeah. And you raised a good point there. And I read an article the other day about a lot of the, top companies are run by engineers. And I think it's, that mindset that you said, a lot of entrepreneurship is problem solving. And, an engineer's skill set is very much looking at problems and like thinking about things logically. Do you think that, your background as an engineer has, supported you, not just in, because you're in software, but in entrepreneurship in general?
Yes, certainly. Because I think the background, because I did maths. I'm not that I'm great at maths, but I had, mathematical background from school, and that helped me because a lot of these problems are mathematical problems, right? If you have $100, you got to survive. That's a mathematical problem, right? So a lot of software problems are mathematical. So that kind of engineering background helped me to do problem solving. But it hits to a point where you build this problem. You solve problems. You bring to a business to a certain level. You get to a point you may have to pass the baton where you cannot solve the rest of the problems yourselves. You need other people to come in, because the initial phase of my business was, solving problems, deploying solutions. And once you get those solutions in a place where it's ready, you need a different skill set. You need a skill set where people can communicate what you're trying to sell, what you build a commercial model, go out to customers, partners. So your skill sets change, and me from getting people in, trying to understand the problem, solving that problem, getting right engineers to solve that problem, help with the solution, and all of a sudden switching into a guy who now all of a sudden you got to communicate this and be quite articulative about how you're going to position this product. It's a very different skill set. So you may have to bring in other people. But again, that's a problem that you got to solve.
But that's something that I've noticed, something that in terms of like Krishan, like our experience, because we done few projects together.
Yeah.
Krishan is not just a tech guy, right? He bring that commercial acumen into any business challenges. So it's a great guy to kind of looking at the commercial model and looking at how can we commercialize it, something, like doing a business, not just developing something together. So we done some crazy things, some of the stuff didn't go well. I mean, we learned from a lot of mistakes that we done. Interesting projects that we done, Krishan, like, one is B cars. Remember we were planning to have like hundreds of cars on the street. and then we realized there's a trust issue between the partners. So and we decided to pull the plug very early days, which was the right thing to do, you know. And then I mean, it's very interesting. Sorry, and how I met Krishan as well, you know, was another project, right? So he came to visit Sri Lanka when at that time I had a small tech team in Sri Lanka, and he came to see that tech business and just to see whether Krishan's business that he was working at that time can work with us, partner with us. So that's how I met Krishan. And since then, we kind of are talking about, we've done quite a few projects and exciting projects, I guess, you know. Yeah,
Very
so
challenging projects.
Oh, challenging. I mean,
Probably one of the. Yeah, we've done some couple of projects.
I mean, we don't want to mention the names, you know, because for multiple reasons. But some of the projects we've done, like, it's crazy. Like, I never seen this guy. He just come last minute. He suddenly turned his switches on, the whole engines on, like, and he go non-stop, like, and get the results. You know, it's
adrenaline rush from that.
Oh my goodness. And
I mean, we should talk about that experience. I mean, putting the names aside, you know, I mean, the project was, building an e-commerce solution at scale. Now, the initial KPI that was given to us is, look, we're going to get 100,000 users coming in, and you should be able to service them, and we're going to do a load test on it. Okay, that we were fairly confident with that. So, but last minute, before the test, like 24 hours, they said, you know what, guys, we're going to have to increase that to 1 million sessions.
Oh my God.
Million concurrent users.
That's when the kind of, I'm like, well, I was very upfront with the folks. I said, we're not going to be able to hit that. They said, you know what, guys, you can't go live without it. You guys have 72 hours to test this. So each test costs like 10 grand, or even more, I can't even recall it. But because you cannot create that sort of volume with your home computers, office computers, you need data centers to help you with that. When we've just said we did the first one, it failed at 200 sessions, I think 200K sessions. And overnight we were working, we changed the whole architecture. I didn't have a clue what to even do, right? Like, he
so
just brings breakfast.
So I was just watching at how these guys are working, and they you know, like, they're going all over the place, testing and failing and keep testing, doing stuff and testing again and keep failing, and it's magical, like, just to see, like. And only thing that I could do, hey, Krishan, you want a cup of tea or coffee? I'll get that for you. Or in the morning I'll bring the breakfast. And I can see the guy actually fall asleep on his chair, like 6 a.m., like, you know. And then, 8 o'clock, we're supposed to go live with this thing, or we need to report back. So it was an interesting journey, right? I mean, I learned a lot from that journey, and but it was kind of quite nerve-wracking experience as well. I'm pretty sure you're used to that kind of stuff all the time.
I mean... Yeah, it's just, next day you fell flat, right? I'm like, what do we do now? Like, so it's the adrenaline rush you get.
But we build an awesome product, right? Like, I mean,
products are built.
It's like a ticker tech we build. Like, pretty much, you know, you can have more than 1 million concurrent users, users at once can come to this site and purchase. It worked. It worked like magic, right?
Yeah. And they pushed it hard as well to break it. So it was good. It comes down to, you know, who you have, as your team. I kind of knew. I mean, Jam asked me the question, actually, do you think we could do it? Maybe.
Because the relationship that I had, the customer, that was my relationship, the customer, right? So my partner is Krishan and his team, tech partner, I brought to the picture. So without knowing technology much, and it was really like, you know, nerve-wracking thing for me, you know, because I don't want to promise something that I can't deliver. And guess what? I have no idea whether I can deliver.
Control over the whole thing. And the whole relationship was at stake too, right? So, but I didn't want to, I mean, I didn't want to let Jam down as a dear friend, and we didn't really think about the commercials even at that stage. We were like, okay,
No.
well, let's try to figure this out. But when he asked me the question, I looked at my team. I'm like, maybe we could do this. I mean, credit goes to my team, really. I mean,
Absolutely,
I was
yeah.
helping. We were all working hard, but I had a great team, technically savvy, and had great work ethics, and they were laser focused on this problem, and we managed to get over the line.
And how did you build a team like that?
It takes years to attract talent that could make a huge difference in any sort of product. Takes a long time, especially in tech early days. Things going to change in the next decade because of the new technologies coming out with ChatGPT, LLM models, and all that. I think coding and scaling software products going to be a lot easier. But when we started, we really needed some serious tech guys who really understand complex algorithms, complex frameworks, deployment architectures, kind of products we built. So you go through a lot of iterations to find the right talent. But all these guys who are very good, they're also looking for a crazy challenge because they know they can always get a job, right? So they're not really insecure about their jobs or pay or anything. They look for something exciting, something great. And once you find these guys, you just look after them. And this, and the folks have been with me for years, 10, 15 years, some of these guys. And they've never looked back because we look after them. Our success is their success. So that's a motto
creating that culture, like, having that high performance culture, as you said, they were not motivated by money. They're motivated by the challenge. That's a awesome thing to do, right?
No, you got to put the money.
Yeah.
That money problem needs to be put aside. They need to be compensated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once you put that aside, everything else becomes easy.
Yeah.
Because they are not focused on how to pay kids' school fees, how to pay a school van fees.
It's all taken care of.
Once that problem is out of the wood, these guys will come and do great things. So that's kind of what I've realized. Once you find good guys with the right work ethics, right technical skills, attitude, team player, you first solve their problem with the money, right? Okay, that's taken care of. Now let's go and build something exciting together. So that's kind of
keep them engaged and excited.
These guys go into autopilot. That's how these software companies go into autopilot mode, right? Nobody, a lot of these tech businesses, the ones that are run well, they all mostly on autopilot, exactly knows what to release, when to release. Research teams comes and say, hey, these are the features we need. How do we release it? How do we make sure it's secured? How do we make sure it's load tested? All this happens. It's like a machine. So it's built like that. So that's why I like the industry I'm in. Quite grateful to be in tech.
Yeah, and going back to that crazy project that you guys pulled off, how do you go about dealing with like sometimes unrealistic expectations?
That was that's a good question because that was really unrealistic, right? At that time.
Yeah, it was silly, but
with the timing wise, if we had more time, that would be.
No,
anything is possible.
That's those sort of numbers. Not even larger retail brands don't even target for. So I thought more than unrealistic, it's more like a silly number, right? To go achieve what you're trying to achieve here. But if it's not. We knew it's not impossible. We knew that it's possible to hit this. If we knew that, okay, well, if there's a 50-50 chance we might not able to make it, we'd probably call it out and guys, this is not possible. But we knew we had a good chance of pulling this off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I guess, I'm answering that question, Dylan, like, it was in a certain level unrealistic, but Krishan and team saw that as a challenge for them to really go and try. And they want to prove themselves more than, show the customer. So they thought, well, it's a challenge that we're happy to take, and let's take on board. Let's try to do it. But Krishan, talking about these exciting projects, my next question, right? Like, I know this was something that we done, and you done multiple other exciting projects, and you're working with Australia's largest telecommunication company, and providing amazing services to these guys. And apart from that, I know you are working on a very, very exciting where the future is, right? You want to take us through and talk about some of the crazy projects that, I'm sorry to say that crazy project, maybe not that crazy, but great projects that you are currently working on.
Well, I mean, I started a gaming company. I just thought, there's a good opportunity in gaming. Again, we always been B2B, yourself and myself. It's a great place to be because businesses bring you the problem, you solve the problem, you get paid for it. But consumer B2C is a whole new kettle of fish. The consumers aren't as forgiving as your business customers. You can always negotiate with your business partners, but not with consumers. And you have a wide array of these consumers coming in as well. So finding a problem that works for them and building a solution around it is quite challenging. And however, this is the reasons why these consumer tech companies are evaluated so high, because not many can be very successful. So I always knew I had to do something in consumer space. I just didn't know what it needs to be. Been looking at, been researching, and then all of a sudden myself, Kumar is a good friend of mine. Kumar Sangakkara was a cricketer out of Sri Lanka. We all got together and we were just thought, what would be the next big thing? And I mean, crypto was becoming big, NFTs kind of picking up. We thought, okay, instead of doing that, how about we bring, creating digital athletes that are smart, that can live, breathe, grow within a certain ecosystem. And maybe people can watch these guys play, cheer them, and eventually own them. That's how we came up with the Meta 11 idea.
Yeah, so Meta 11 idea, that's an awesome idea. I remember you're telling me about this idea at the pub.
Yeah.
And just telling, hey, I have this great idea, and I want to create this virtual cricket tournament, right? Like, and like, like T20 cricket, like, you can choose players, you can auction players. And I thought that was brilliant, like, brilliant idea. So let's take us through. The people don't really know much about Meta 11. Just take a little bit detail, like, what's Meta 11 look like,
Yeah. So, I mean, when, in its current form, what we now doing is we released our beta version where people could go in and play fantasy gaming, pretty much like you do with real games, where you can pick your team, and we have tournaments running all day, and if they do well, you go into a leaderboard and you win. It's and in next 3 to 4 months, we are planning to release the ownership piece, where people will be able to create your own player, customize them, deploy on the blockchain, and start training them and enroll them into virtual games. And people will also able to create virtual teams. If you could build your own team, or you could get other owners to participate with you and play virtual leagues or games. And while these games are going on, these AI characters are quite interesting. You can talk to them. LLM models have helped them, saying, "Hey man, how are you feeling?" I'm feeling good. I can't wait to take the Australian guys out.
So how many teams you have at the moment?
At the moment, we got 5 teams.
Yeah. Are they like country-based teams?
Yeah, in a city-based. So we have, obviously, we have Pakistan team. We have from Karachi. We have Colombo. We have India. We have London. So yeah, we have everywhere.
Okay.
And all the players. We have female cricketers, male cricketers. Good thing about virtual cricket is
Yep.
you can mix and match. You can have virtual girls playing with the boys, and we can play cricket in snow.
So in terms of technology wise, you mentioned some like AI, blockchain, some other technology that you're using, right? So what these technologies actually bringing into these games?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at how this sort of virtual gaming been done previously. It's a lot of simulations.
Yeah.
The problem with simulations is it's not really exciting or engaging, and it's pretty much picking Dockert out of a hat and say, hey, this is the ball I'm gonna play, and this is the shot he's gonna hit.
So it's like a machine learning,
No, that's kind of the traditional way. What we kind of try to do is we said, okay, how can we create these players that are unique, have their own DNA, have their own charisma about it, have
Can you
their
train
own
them?
personalities. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And also using techniques so they can learn and strategize depending on their experience. So that way, all of a sudden, these games become very exciting.
So I can say, for example, I can auction, or can I create a player?
Yeah. So next 3 to 4 months, we will have that feature. We've already testing that feature. We built it where you can create a player. You can own that player and go up the ranks. If your player do well, we will have IPL style virtual league.
Wow.
You can auction your player.
Okay, so you can actually train this player and
enroll them in
continue
games, buy them tools,
and then you can auction and sell the player at
correct.
the end.
And we also making sure these players can play other sports as well. So your player can be able to play next year. They're able to play UFC.
Whoa.
You can put them on like a triathlon style. They can play soccer. So it's a sporting omniverse that's we're creating.
All right, but you're starting with cricket.
Starting with cricket, get that right, and then move into other segments.
And you were talking to me early stage. You really want to create that virtual cricket game that you can actually buy even grounds and buy tournaments, and then you run like virtual tournaments, and then you can actually make money out of doing like exactly the same thing that you do in a real world, right?
Yeah. So if you look at fans, right, there's no real mechanism for fans to really get involved in the game itself, other than just cheering for your players and the team, right? So how do you democratize this and let fans also have piece of this, piece of this game? So what we thought was, okay, if we allow these guys to bring their knowledge into the game and allow them to train these players, pick the right players, pick right teams, and reward them for doing that and executing their knowledge about the game. And these fans are the cricketing fans or any sport fans. They're quite smart, right? They always know.
They know the game.
They know the game. They know who to play, what to play. I mean, you can see in social media, hey, why did you play? Why didn't you play?
Yeah.
And then, why didn't you play this player? Why didn't you? You should have had this guy in. Now, how do you bring this to
The
reality,
virtual,
right? And allow them the opportunity to actually have that and be rewarded for that. So that's kind of the idea we came up.
So it's more like a more engaging model than you
and then we don't want to target the traditional gamers, because then you have to be a gamer, right? You have to stay overnight, play games, and fans are subset of fans are gamers, but fans are all about having a great knowledge about the game, who back their favorite players, cheer them on, and now we're trying to give them a piece of the pie.
Yeah, it's amazing concept. I mean, you're talking about massive scale as well, right? Like cricket alone, it's the second largest sports, I believe, in the world after soccer, football, and there's so much. I mean, you're also partner with some of the legends in the game, right? So, can you take us through some of the partners in your this business?
Yeah, I mean, Kumar is a co-founder of this.
Kumar Sangakkara from Sri Lankan team,
And Ravi Shastri came on board as advisor to us. He helped us with a lot of, how especially to the Indian market, how we should target the product. And we got a great cap table. We got Jordan Waxman out of New York, who runs his own fund over a few $1 billion. We got Jason from Australia, who was heading up Seek Capital, I believe. So so we got a great cap table. We got a great support. So next 12 months is going to come down to execution. We build the tech again. When we started this project, it was an ambitious project because there's a lot of moving parts, right? But 18 months down the road, we managed to crack it. Now the product is ready. Now, we next 12 months is all about growth and user adoption.
It's amazing story. Like, I mean, I can, from the initial idea that you shared with me like 18 months ago, and to where you came, and I guess this is just the beginning, right? So
I mean, it's about really finding those right people and really be clear on what you're trying to achieve, and get your team behind it and making it happen.
And one thing that I like about this whole idea, because it's not just you're creating something that benefit to you. It can create the benefit to anybody. Anyone can actually commercially make money out of this, right? Like commercially successful, purchasing players or renting your venues, etc. So you're creating a whole ecosystem, right?
Correct.
So that's something that I
these digital assets are they have great fundamentals, right? Like you have your own, like you have in physical assets, tangible assets. These grounds will have game fees, advertising boards, sponsors. So these assets generating similar way, your tangible assets would generate revenue. So it makes sense to for us to deploy this.
That's awesome. So I mean, we can talk about this whole day, because that's a interesting topic that we could explore. But I wanna, Dylan, you have a question?
No, I was just going to take it on a bit of a left-hand turn, because in your definition of success, you were talking about, you're a family man as well.
Yep.
And I know how busy you are and all of the projects you're involved with. How do you strike a balance between work and life?
Well, you don't. I think you just try. I don't think being an entrepreneur, because so many people depend on you, right? You got 50 to 60 people working for you. You have shareholders, you have investors, and then you have your family. So many people depending on your success or your deliverables. So for me to go and say, oh, I have perfect life, I don't think I do. So I just try my best, and I'm grateful that I have an understanding family, right?
Yeah, that's the key.
That's the key.
Supporting partner.
Yeah,
3
they understand.
beautiful kids.
This guy is trying to do something. He's trying to do the right thing by the family, his partners, all the stakeholders he's involved in, and they forgive me for a lot. So I think that's what it is. It's just and the thing is, I'm passionate about these things. So it's not like I'm doing that because I have to. I'm quite passionate about it. I get up in the morning and do this with a lot of passion. So I enjoy it. And I'm lucky enough to have a family where I have a lot of support around.
Do you think that's the important part, like having understanding partner and having that family support?
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, it is one of the key components, right? You need to think. You need to have that freedom, brain space to think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So. And your families, that's what that's going to give.
Without them, we wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And those are the sacrifices they've made, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are grateful for that, right? They've
it's a team game.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we we just hope we all can celebrate together. That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, Krishan, believe it or not, like, we talk about this stuff. It's a very interesting story, good, great journey. I mean, we could talk whole day taking you through, but something that you only touched on, like, I like to take a little bit back, right, to this discussion, because I try to really understand why Krishan, like, this entrepreneurial journey and this technology interest, enthusiasm and passion, I would say, came from what's Krishan Deegalla like when he was like youngest as you can ever remember. I mean, you had a twin brother?
Yeah, I have a twin brother.
You have a twin brother.
Yeah, I have a twin brother, and we were normal kids. I mean, we were up to mischief. I mean, we weren't the most obedient kids, for sure. We had our moments, but we weren't the bad guys either. So we were kind of the right subset where that I guess where everyone's interested, kind of talking to you. so we were in a good spot. But we had very little kind of ambition back in the day. We weren't thinking of becoming doctors. We just were enjoying life, having fun.
You had the freedom to have fun?
We to a degree. I mean, we weren't the guys who were out every day, and that wasn't us. My father was quite strict about what we do and what's our social circle and the social life needs to look like, being a traditional Sri Lankan dad. But we had enough kind of leeway to have fun.
Yeah, but where I'm coming from, like, I'm trying to understand, right? I don't know any of your other siblings. Are they like similar to you? Like, they coming because your father is not non-technology business he's doing, right? What are the other, like, anyone doing any technology related stuff?
No, everyone's kind of perceiving what they've kind of studied, coincidentally.
Yeah, so you're kind of unique, right?
I'm going into tech where my sister is in accountancy. She's in Australia. She's working as a finance accountant, and my brother studied in UK and he moved back to Sri Lanka and helping my dad with his business now.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, my brother is quite a creative person as well. He's a very creative person, and I think he also kind of focus on doing interesting things.
Yeah, because it's interesting, right? Where I'm trying to go, what made you decide, well, engineering or it's not my thing, I want to become a real tech? Because you are very good at what you do.
Yeah, I think,
anything that you've seen or anything felt?
I think because of our upbringing, I just felt like working for someone never kind of fit in right.
Yeah.
Because I never seen my dad working for anyone.
But why didn't you start a business like me, logistic company?
That just ease a transition, right? Because I enjoyed tech. I knew, actually, our industry doesn't need much capital to start.
Oh, okay.
It's we are quite fortunate that, especially back in the day, Amazon gave us credits. Go, there were so many programs, and so if you have a computer and an internet connection, you are pretty much set, right? So it was quite a easy transition in terms of starting it because it doesn't cost much. Like becoming a real estate guy or getting into commercial warehousing or any other business would have required a significant capital. Being just came out of the university, being alone, very little support in terms. I mean, I had my uncles here who were quite supporting me well, but
So you agree that if I said you had that entrepreneurial spirit in you, and then you were looking for opportunity to get out and do your own thing,
Correct.
and then you saw the technology is a great opportunity for you to kind of transition.
It's a low hanging fruit, pretty much, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It was the low hanging fruit. I was reasonably good at it, and I knew I could do something with it, and it didn't require much significant capital, and if I knew if I could grind for 2-3 years, I could come out well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the idea.
So I guess one of the things that you've done, continuous learning, right? All
Correct.
throughout
Well,
the
that's the key in this industry.
yeah.
What's relevant 2 years is not relevant anymore.
Absolutely,
so you gotta
absolutely.
stay
I mean,
up to
that's
date.
one of the reason I actually moved away from technology because I couldn't kept up with the speed of change, like technology. So yeah,
And so, we've talked a lot about the past, but I want to flick you into the future. Like, what's the vision? What's the goal for Krishan?
Well, at the moment, I'm laser focused on what I'm doing now, right? With behavioral, getting this game into something considerably huge, where we have millions of users engaging in the platform. So that'll be the goal for the next, let's say, 5 years, and who knows after that. Yeah, but I'm not really focusing much other than that
Yep.
in terms of business ventures.
it's the one thing for Krishan. Yeah, that's it.
I don't like doing multiple things. I mean, I invest in few startups, work on real estate here and there, but key focus is this.
And do you think that's something that's helped you a lot? Like just picking one thing and just sticking with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, that's kind of how I operate. But I've seen people doing other way and being successful as well. So I don't know whether there's a right or wrong answer for that. But for me personally,
Yeah.
I felt just picking one thing
And also it's a maturity as well, right? Like, I mean, when we were quite young, I mean, trying to do a lot of things, it's exciting, right? But then you realize better to focus on one thing because your success is, you have a better chance of succeeding doing one thing. And so maybe you had a different way of looking at things.
No, I guess when you start, all these kind of up in there, you don't know, right? But as you mature, as you build stuff, you kind of know, okay, this is the right horse to pick.
Yeah.
And you give everything. But when you start, I mean, I did multiple things myself, so it's just how it is. But as you, mature, as you start doing stuff, as you start, working on businesses, you quickly learn, okay, more you deploy all your resources into one problem, the better outcome you get.
Yeah.
So, and that's been
Excellent.
kind of what I've been doing.
And I just want to ask you, looking back on your journey, is there one key lesson or one key thing which you think has contributed to your success?
Yeah, grind. I think it was easy to give up, to be honest. A couple of moments I thought, it's becoming quite difficult now. But for me now, I'm kind of almost numb to stress now. It just doesn't affect me at all because it's just been through all this stress. I think grind, hanging in there, believing there's always light end of the tunnel, and having a great team and just push it through. That's kind of what I believe. I think having the right team is a great it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And to close out this discussion, I want to go back to the first point where we asked what success means to you. And you said, it's a very holistic definition of success, career and family, and, trying to live by your values of integrity and, happiness, having that agency to do what you want. Looking back now, do you feel successful?
Yeah, I have a good family. I have a great set of friends. I feel I'm quite fortunate and successful. I'm quite grateful for where I am at the moment.
That's good. And I want to, summarize some of the key takeaways that, I pulled out of our discussion here. So I think, one which you mentioned early on was, you were always very open or, chasing problems And, you know, to build good businesses, you really need to focus on the problem. So by, you know, keeping your eyes open and your ears open and looking or chasing the problems, I think that's been something which has helped you a lot. And then also, you know, when you were working a few days a week, but then you kept some time for yourself, I don't know, I feel like having that space to think and explore also gave you the opportunity to, you know, step back a little bit away from the day-to-day hustle and kind of figure out where you actually wanted to go. And so I think having that freedom to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture is also something that's important. And then, you know, you talk a lot about, you know, bringing in the right people, building those relationships. I think knowing your skills and knowing when you need to bring in help, I think that's something that you talked about quite a lot. You know, understanding where your knowledge is and your boundaries are, and then bringing in the right people to help support you. And that's how you've been able to really scale a lot of your things. And then, you know, you spoke about you're constantly trying to learn and keep on top of something that's always evolving. And then, you know, finally the grind, as you said, having the perseverance to show up day on day, and even when things get hard to keep going.
Never give up. That's it.
Never give up. You just have to believe in.
Yes.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you just control what you can. Rest, you can't do much with it.
Yeah. Yes. So I guess one day, Dylan, when we look back, you know, I mean, this is very early stage of our podcast journey. We can look at when the Meta 11 will become Krishan will become a unicorn, one of the unicorns. You know, we can say, hey, we had this chat, right? So I have no doubts, you know, Krishan. I mean, you have the ability, the skills that you need, and that the passion,
the drive,
the drive, the attitude, right? So all the best, and thank you so much for being with us and talking to us, sharing, your journey.
And if is the beta test for Meta 11 still going? Can people still join?
Yeah, you can join and
so
play.
if people want to join, where can they?
You
they
go
find
meta11.com, sign up, and start playing.
Perfect.
And it'll be
Meta11.com. That's the site.
And if you haven't already, give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And on that note, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, Krishan. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.